Welcome to the Midlife Leap, a lifestyle talk show for women in midlife, sharing tips and interviews on topics ranging from business, career, current news, fashion, shopping, health, travel, and so much more. Please subscribe to this channel so you'll receive alerts of new episodes. And like this video so that other midlife women just like you will be alerted by YouTube to check out the Midlife Leap show. Zelle fraud is on the rise and you must protect your money. Thieves are using Zelle to steal bank customers' money, and the banks are not willing to refund the loss. Now, many will be surprised to know that money stolen via Zelle is not covered like credit card fraud. Now, hopefully, as this battle is going to the courts, this will change soon. But in the meantime, if your money is stolen, don't wait to act. Report it to the bank, the police, and the FBI. Taking these actions will increase the chance of getting your money back. Also, take preventative measures beforehand. Be careful about hacks. Don't click on those links that you get in your emails because it could be a hack to get into your account. Don't give out sensitive information over the phone. Hang up. You can get the person's name and call your bank directly to verify that that person works there. Now, don't use the number that they give you. Call your bank directly with the number that you have. Also, if you're selling stuff on eBay, Nextdoor, Facebook Marketplace, as I do often, when people ask you for, I want to pay you by Zelle, don't give out that information. Make them pay you by Cash App, or Venmo instead. And just as a disclaimer, there's probably not a lot of safety with Cash apps. I mean, those type of apps anyway, because hackers are always busy. I think we're all kind of taking a risk at using them. So that's just a disclaimer, just in case. Also, don't use Zelle to pay bills or businesses, and only accept money sent to you or send money to people that you know with Zelle. Those are just some safety measures to hopefully keep you from having your money stolen. So these are just a few tips if your account has already been hacked and money taken by Zelle, to hopefully get your money back by thoroughly reporting the incident, or preventive measures to hopefully avoid the thieves from getting into your account and taking your money. Let's keep our money safe. We work too hard. Have you written a book and the idea of marketing your book so people will actually buy it completely overwhelms you? Well, we have a guest here who will break down book marketing and hopefully relieve some of that stress. Helen Sherriff is the author of the award-winning Southern women's fiction, Boop and Eve's Road Trip. She serves as an author marketing coach, host of Growing Up Bookish, and the CEO of Bookish Road Trip. She recently released the Ultimate Book Launch Workbook, and currently she's editing a collaborative anthology entitled Launchpad: Countdown to Marketing Your Book, which will actually launch in 2023. So yay, it's coming soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I'm one of the many independent authors out there. At this point, it's been so long. I think for me, it's more like, okay, I got it done. But I know the next project I work on, I wanted to actually sell. Right. People like me.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, though. People publish books for a lot of different reasons. And, to be honest, sometimes it isn't to sell them, right? Like sometimes it's I wanted my 10 best friends to read this book I wrote, and so I published it, and sometimes it's people who have businesses that they've written a book that they kind of want to use for credibility and for hopefully getting public speaking gigs and things like that. And so I think, to your point, I think the very, very first question one needs to be honest with is, why are you marketing your book? Do you need to market your book, right? Like, if you really don't care about selling your book, then no need to market. Just go write another one. It'll be fun. It's a fun hobby. But anybody who wants to sell their book, there are millions of books available on Amazon, and you're competing with all of them to some extent. And so the truth is, it's such a noisy place, this book world we live in, and that people aren't going to just randomly discover your book without you putting a lot of seeds out there. So step one is your goal. Step two is if you've decided, yes, I do want to sell my book, and I guess that means I need to market it, then I would say you also want to have a plan. And that's what the workbook I just put out kind of helps take you through step by step, all the things one might do if they were planning a book launch. It sets it up. There's a timeline in the back that starts at like a year before. And I think that's one of the things I would throw out at people. You don't have to start marketing your book before, but the sooner you start marketing your book, the better, because there's a lot of things you can do ahead of time, a lot of foundations you can lay, and then you're not scrambling at the last minute. You're not pulling things out of the air. And you've got time when your book actually comes out to do interviews and to do things like that, because you've already pitched them. You've already got things lined up. You've already kind of laid all your groundwork. There are some opportunities, this is not as true as it used to be, but there are some opportunities that are kind of limited in time, right? Those first few months your book comes out are your best bets for getting any sort of media coverage. Although I would caution you that the fact that you've written and published a book is probably not news unless you live in a really small town. I don't live in a really small town. So it needs to be along with an event, along with an award, something else to kind of grab it in, or even better if your book somehow is related to a current event. But those kinds of opportunities are sort of short-lived. And in addition to that, if you're looking at having your book into bookstores, they typically would only have new books in there for a little while, unless again you're local, or you're just a giant bestseller, in which case maybe they'll just keep you all the time. But if you're new, starting out, don't have a giant following yet, your chance of being in a bookstore is really limited to a small window. And then depending on how sales go, maybe they keep you a little longer, maybe they don't. So backpedaling a year, if you can't do a year, 6 months, if you can't do 6 months, 3 months, I would really, really hope someone wouldn't decide to start marketing their book after their book is out. It's never too late. It's never too late. But I think that you miss a lot of opportunities. You're kind of playing catch up all the time,
So you mentioned that you may not get a lot of press unless you're in a small town. I think that helps with realistic goal setting. Because one thing I noticed, is probably a lot of people notice, is a lot of people have published or self-published a book because it is really easy to do now. So how do you, as a coach, help that person be realistic, but not, I guess, lose their excitement about one of their biggest dreams?
Yeah, so that is sometimes a challenge because, my book, I spent 7 years writing it. When it came out, it was the biggest deal in the world to me, But the truth is, the world wasn't sitting around waiting for my book. It should have been, but and you do think, okay, well, it's really hard, but, I'm going to be the one who makes it. I'm going to be the big splash. And maybe you will. There are people whose debut books come out and they do somehow strike lightning. But for most people who are writers, they don't really start making money until like their third book. It just takes a lot of time to build a platform up to get the kind of numbers you need to hit bestseller lists.
So, you can actually, a lot of people are writing books just to legitimize them in their business or make them more of an expert. Is that something that you help people understand as well? Maybe they can sell books at local parties or different.
Sure. And you could also think like if your business, if you're doing nonfiction and it's related to your business, you have opportunities that are available that are not available to novelists, right? So you're an expert in your field, doing classes, doing webinars, doing speaking at like community and small group things. So if someone's in like networking groups, Rotary clubs, that kind of thing. So like this public speaking piece of that can be huge. Likewise, there are tons of podcasts that focus on different, nonfiction type subjects. If you find some of those, being a guest on those sorts of podcasts can be a great, opportunity to get in front of a different audience. So one thing that can start to happen is you kind of end up in this little echo chamber in your own platform where people like, yes, I've heard you say that 1,000 times, so if you can get on other people's platforms that they've loved and spent time building, it can open up your audience to new people. And I think that in the nonfiction world, that's an especially powerful tool. You're not, if you go to an event, let's say there's a conference in the field that your book is in, and you speak at the conference and you sell your book there, you're not competing with 100 other authors trying to sell their book, right? Like everyone was there to hear you speak or to hear less people speak. And there are just going to be less books there anyway. So I think public speaking for a nonfiction writer can be huge. That's scary to some people. And then for others, that's like, great. Plus public speaking can pay, especially if you're an expert, right? Yeah. And so you could make money going and speaking at something and then sell your book too. So it could be kind of a win-win.
Okay. You said something that kind of sparked my thinking, because I know you're speaking on nonfiction. So maybe a novelist could reach out to, what they call book clubs? Because there's a lot of Facebook groups that are primarily book clubs. And I did not think of that.
Yes. So that is one of the things that nonfiction, fiction writers should do. Exactly. Real life book clubs can be tricky. They're fantastic, but they're kind of hard to find. Most people just kind of do it naturally. It's a very organic thing, and they're not registered somewhere, and they're not, that kind of thing. So that becomes very much of a word of mouth sort of thing. So for most people, if they're starting out, they reach out to people that they know who are in book clubs and kind of start there. But what happens is you go to a book club and it goes really well. And then one person in that book club's talking to their other friend who's in another book club. And they're like, oh my gosh, we had this author come and it was fantastic. And so suddenly 6 months later, you're getting a random phone call from someone you don't know who was like, so-and-so told me. So it can be great. Usually authors don't charge book clubs to speak, but I mean, I guess if I was Jodi Picoult, I might. I don't know. I don't know that she does book clubs, but also with Zoom, a lot of book clubs met online for a while, and that kind of opens up the door for them being more comfortable having an author just chime in. So I went to a book club recently, and I was an attendee, but the guests came in on Zoom, and everyone else was in real life. So that's a way that you can do it as well. But the Facebook groups can be really, really great, and that's one of mine. In my bio, one of the things I do is I run one. It's called Bookish Road Trip. And basically we talk books and we talk travel. And sometimes those things overlap and sometimes they don't. We're okay with either. But there's about 15 of us who kind of work behind the scenes. All of us are writers and authors. And so we started it to promote our own books, but then we also often lift other authors who are not part of our collaborative through offering guest appearances and things like that. But there are a lot of great Facebook groups that do interviews and have book clubs and will let you do day-long takeovers. And that can be a really fun way to get in touch with some book readers.
And probably, of course, networking with other independent book authors to get ideas and things like that.
Yes. And so that's another tip I would throw at you is find an author or several who write in the same genre you write in and who have a similar audience, and who are maybe at your level, like they have one book out, or maybe they have a few, but I'm not going to suggest you compare yourself to someone who's on the New York Times bestseller list. But go to those people's web pages and look, because a lot of times authors will say what events they've spoken at or what podcasts they've been on. They'll have a list of that kind of thing where they've done guest blog posts. People who are open to that person might very well be open to you as well. So that's one way to kind of find places to pitch you as a guest. And then I would also really, 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 really suggest that you support other authors and make some friends. So if you're finding some authors who do have the same audience and write in the same genre, reach out to them. Hey, I'm a new author. Read their book, write a review of their book, do what you can to help them. And, sometimes that comes back to you. Doesn't always, that's reality. But I think if you put good in the world, you get good back.
And really quick too, I've been focusing on independent, I guess, self-published. But is it correct that those who are with publishing houses, they have to do their own book marketing pretty much?
A lot of them do. Certainly a smaller publishing house probably does very little for you. Some of the bigger publishers, the big five, they have marketing budgets, but they tend to go to their first-time authors. Unless they're about to publish a book they think is just going to blow the world away, they tend to minimally do it. So most authors, in addition to whatever their publisher might do, fill in a lot of gaps. And for some, that's more than others. And some, I even know traditionally published authors who also hire publicists. So even their publishing company is doing some publicity for them, and the two kind of talk and figure out what the one that the authors hired.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
I think that kind of helps people get rid of like the fantasy of, well, why would I hire her as a book marketing coach when maybe I can just go on and get published by you, like you said, the big five, and they'll handle all of that for me. But that's actually not reality.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely not true. And I've worked with a lot of authors, and many of them are independent. They're usually quicker to come. But traditionally published authors, I've worked with quite a few of those as well. I've worked with some who have several books out, some who only have one. The thing about book marketing is, there are a million ways you could market your book. And there's just a lot of choices that you can have thrown at you. You could spend a lot of money. You could spend a lot of time. Some of those things are more effective than other things. So, I think it can save you time and money to have someone help direct you instead of reaching and grabbing, and suddenly you've spent $30,000 and you don't know what happened.
It's interesting that you said that, because I honestly did not know or consider that there's hundreds or many options of book marketing. I think I kind of assumed that it was limited.
No, there are so many people who will take your money. And some of them will do so effectively and others will not. But the other thing is, there's skill behind marketing. And most of us who go into writing books, that's not necessarily our background or what we know how to do. And obviously you can learn, but shortcuts to that learning process can make you more effective at it earlier. But most authors are doing some sort of combination of hiring and doing it themselves. There's usually almost like a hybrid there of there's some things I outsource because I don't have those contacts, right? And there's some things I would do myself. And so kind of knowing what your skills are, I can kind of figure out how to use WordPress. Other people are like, oh my gosh, I will hire someone to make me a website. I don't have contacts in the media. I wanted a national campaign. Sure, I could pitch national things. I didn't think that was going to be very successful. So I hired a publicist to do that for me. Depending on your budget and depending on your genre, there are many, many things, and some things you might be better at. So those should be the things you spend your time doing versus, don't waste hours and hours doing something that is like really hard for you or you really hate when there are other options.
So an author comes to you hopefully a year before while their book is published.
Rarely.
Unless they have my name.
Most of them don't come to me a year
before. Do
it
hard and publish the book. And so you help them set a goal with the type of book and everything else. Create a plan. And is this I guess it can be continuous depending upon what they're doing in the book and everything else.
You mean their relationship with me or the plan?
Yeah.
With me, I tend to sell in, like you could just do one 30-minute talk. And I do offer a free discovery 30-minute talk where you kind of talk to me about what you're thinking and looking for. And I kind of talk to you about what we could do. And some people come to me and already have plans and they want me to look at them. Or some people come and they're just like, you know what? I tried doing this. It didn't work. Can you help me? They come to me with a lot of things. So the workbook is the thing I'm currently, promoting, which is how to make a plan. But I don't necessarily only work with people on plans. So they can just buy a 30-minute session, or you can buy it in like packages. So it could be a package of 4 30-minute sessions, or a package of 8, or a package of 12. So it's kind of up to the person. Obviously, not obviously, but they're discounted if you buy, bigger packages. So there's a reason to maybe, if you think you want more than 30 minutes. But I do a first time 30-minute free discovery call for anyone who just kind of wants to feel the situation out and talk a little bit about what they're looking for.
Have a free plan on your site. Should they fill that out first and then contact you? That way they've kind of fleshed out some ideas.
The free thing on my site is a timeline. So it just kind of tells you all the things you should do and kind of when. So there's not really anything to fill out. But if you do set up a 30-minute call with me, I will send you some questions for you to answer before we meet, just so that, you're starting to think about those kinds of things.
Yeah, that seems better. That way when they meet with you, it's like, I have no idea.
Right.
I'm just trying to finish this book.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so please, let me share how a potential client can reach you for that consultation.
Sure.
And again, will you repeat the main 3 steps that you mentioned? I know goal setting was one.
Mm-hmm. So goal setting would be 1. I would say step 2 would be finding books that are comparable to yours, same genre, same audience. And I would add to that, which I didn't say earlier, same tone. So you could write women's fiction as an example, and you could have the same kind of age group and the same gender as your typical audience. But like some women's fiction is funny and some is dark and depressing, and those aren't necessarily the same readers. So that wouldn't be the best comparable book for you if the tone is totally different, right? Like I might like books that make me laugh and not want ones that are going to make me like really sad. Maybe I like both, but again, you're trying to find a book that's a lot like yours, right? Not kind of like yours. So I would find at least 3 of those and stalk them. Follow them on all their social media channels, comment, like, read, review, see who's commenting, liking, and reading and reviewing, see who their audience is, see who their readers are. Go to their webpage, see all the places they've been and where they've done interviews and who's supported them and who's, that kind of thing. You can just copy a lot if you do that. So goal, 3 comparables, and then work on making a plan based on the research that you've done, looking at those comparables.
Wow.
That's what I would say. That's a lot.
It's a lot. Okay. Yeah. So I know I'm going to have to hire you when I write the next one, whenever that happens, because I did none of that. I think I posted on social media. I put it on the website. It's on Amazon. I think that might be all that I
And
did.
those are good things. And look, you have this show right here. You have a platform that's warm and like would be excited about your book. So you've already built a following. We just need to make sure they know you have books.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I just went through a program for my business, a cohort group, and they put me with a marketing person as he has like a multi-million-dollar company as my mentor. And one of the first things he said is, why aren't you mentioning your book on each episode? I was like, oh, and I still have not done it so far. So that's a good reminder.
That's a good reminder. So tell everybody right now, what's the name of the book that's out?
The Supreme Warrior. Family life's obstacles. Okay. I got to get on it.
All right.
Okay. So we have your website. Your website is up. Any other way that you want clients to reach you?
That's probably the best is going to my web page. There is a place to contact me there. I am on Facebook a lot. I'm on some of the other social media, but I tend to focus more on Facebook. If you do like books and like to travel, come to Bookish Road Trip and join us there. We have a lot of fun talking about books and places we have been, want to go, things like that. And so I would say those are the best places to find more.
Wonderful. Thank you. And ladies, I know many of you, one of the things on your bucket list is to write your book, but let's do it and don't do it like I did. Actually create a marketing plan so that, because the idea is you want your book, whatever it is, to reach people, to change their lives, whether you're going to make them laugh, you're giving them fiction, giving them a place to escape, you're giving them information with your nonfiction book. Let's do it right and don't do like me. Reach out to the book marketing coach. Thank you so much for reaching out, for joining us today.
Thank you. It was so fun to be here.
Thank you.